Disney Audio Entertainment presents The Rocketeer. An airplane splits the sky and thunders by a crowd of onlookers, tipping its wings in a victory salute. The GB Racer is a strange-looking plane, little more than a gigantic engine with wings. Inside the cockpit, pilot Cliff Secord grins as the speed gauge passes 200 miles per hour. On a back road not far away, fire erupts from the muzzle of a Tommy gun. The gun is cradled in the gnarled hands of a hood named Lenny, who sits in the rear of a Ford Roadster while his partner Wilmer drives. Next to Wilmer is an oddly shaped suitcase made of hand-tooled leather with shiny brass fittings. Dodging bullets from a police car and a green Plymouth sedan, Wilmer scans the road ahead and is amazed to see an airplane coming over a rise, headed straight for them. Lenny whips the Tommy gun skyward. Bullets strafe the GB Racer, ripping holes through the engine and windscreen. Cliff tries to stay cool as he watches his instruments go haywire.
That's it. Don't die on me now. This does it. No more surprises, okay?
On the road below, Lenny squeezes off a burst from his Tommy gun. Tires shred, and the police car skids into a ditch. Another burst rips through the Plymouth's grille. Steam belches from the radiator, and the car slows to a crawl. Inside, FBI agent Francis Fitch turns to his partner, Jake Wooly Walensky, and shakes his head grimly.
He ain't gonna make it.
The Roadster disappears in a hail of FBI gunfire. A few minutes later, Wilmer pulls into a hangar at the airfield, figuring Lenny can fly them to safety. But when the car stops, Wilmer sees Lenny slumped back in the rumble seat, staring skyward with glazed eyes.
Lousy feds.
As Wilmer's mind races, his gaze falls on a streamlined metal vacuum cleaner with fins. He switches it with his package, jumps into the Roadster, and speeds across the pavement just as the Plymouth limps into view. Agent Fitch leaps out of the Plymouth and fires at the fleeing Roadster. At that moment, the GB appears over the treetops, trailing a plume of smoke. Wilmer glances back at his pursuers, and a bullet smacks into his shoulder. He looks ahead, just in time to see the GB right on top of him. Wilmer jumps from the car and bounces across the asphalt as plane and Roadster collide, tearing off the GB's landing gear. The plane belly flops on the runway in a shower of sparks, while the car slams into a fuel truck and erupts into a ball of flame. The GB's mechanic, P.V. Peabody, races out, followed by his assistants.
Goose! Give me a hand! Get the flames out now before they hit the fuel tank!
Working with fire extinguishers and crowbars, Peavy and his men pull Cliff to safety. Across the way, Agent Fitch confronts Wilmer, who is being loaded into an ambulance.
Your pal in the rumble seat's playing his harp. If you make it to County General, your next stop's Alcatraz. So spill. Where's the package?
Blown to bits. Go look for it.
Get him out of here.
Fitch and Wooly inspect the Roadster. Spotting the charred remains of the vacuum cleaner, they place a phone call. Across town, a man with dark eyes and a pencil-thin mustache listens, nodding, then hangs up.
That was Agent Walensky. The device has been destroyed.
Well, at least it didn't fall into the wrong hands.
The first man picks up a thick stack of blueprints and walks over to the fireplace.
2 of my best pilots died in the test plane. God knows how many more men would have died if it had flown. I'm sorry I ever dreamed the thing up.
He abruptly tosses the stack into the fireplace. Flames leap up as the papers ignite.
What are we going to tell the president?
Tell him the dream is over. Tell him Howard Hughes said so.
Back at the airfield, Cliff and Peavy discover an object in the hangar. Made of chrome and steel, its double-cylinder design is somehow sleek and ominous. Leather straps hang from one side.
Odd-looking contraption.
What do you suppose it is?
Cliff uncoils a long cable with a bracket and a red button on the end. He presses the button. With an enormous blast of flame that knocks Peavy to the floor, the device leaps into the air. It smashes through a rafter in the ceiling, ricochets off a steel tool cabinet, punches through a wall, and embeds itself, still spitting fire, in the back of a chair. Using a mop handle, Cliff hits the red button, and the rocket shuts off.
Never seen nothing like this. It burns alcohol. What's the crazy thing for?
There is a dawning awareness in Cliff's eyes, a hunch too crazy to ignore. He slips his arms through the straps, then snaps the buckle over his chest.
Peavy, listen to me and try to keep an open mind. You'd pay to see a man fly, wouldn't you?
Whoever this belongs to isn't gonna let us keep it. This is what all the shooting was about today.
I don't want to keep it. Just borrow it for a while.
This is nuts.
Just a week or two. As soon as we can afford a new plane, we'll give the gizmo back, I swear.
I think you need your brains counted.
I think we need a helmet.
Inside a mansion in the Hollywood Hills, a tall, elegant man balances a glass of champagne in one hand and a fencing sword in the other. He eyes his visitor, gangster Eddie Valentine.
We have to find out what happened to the rocket.
Wilmer's the only one that knows for sure.
Then we shall have to ask him.
Look, I got half a mind to pull out. My boys are getting bloody on this, and I don't like it.
What you fancy has no bearing here. You live up your contract, or I'll find another small-time hoodlum who can.
Yeah? Well, what I don't fancy is taking any more nonsense off a limey fruitcake like you.
There is a silver blur, and Eddie finds the glittering point of a sword pressed to the hollow of his throat. The tall man's eyes are ablaze.
If we find the rocket, consider your price double. Fair? Fair. Good evening, Mr. Valentine.
Later that night, cops and nurses bustle about outside a room at County General Hospital. Beyond the door, Wilmer dozes, alone. The window next to his bed opens, and an immense, twisted figure slips inside.
Huh? Who's that? Who's that? It's you. Tell your boss I don't answer to nobody but Eddie. Okay, ease off. I pulled the switch, see? I got the dingus stashed good. At the airfield. The Hangar 3. Near some old plane. No, don't.
A nurse and a cop throw open the door. They see Wilmer hanging suspended above his bed, dangling from the traction gear, eyes dead and staring. Beside the bed, the curtains flutter like ghosts. At the Bulldog Cafe in Hollywood, Cliff Secord sits with his girlfriend, aspiring actress Jenny Blake, and some of the airplane mechanics. Cliff and Jenny have just seen a new movie by matinee idol Neville Sinclair. As they talk, Millie, the owner, makes the rounds, pouring coffee.
Elegant dining here at the Bulldog. Once in a while, it wouldn't hurt to try a new place, away from the airfield.
What'll it be, the Copa or the Brown Derby? How about the South Seas Club while you dream?
Yeah, someplace an actress can get noticed.
And a guy can get skinned. For the cost of dessert in one of those joints, I could overhaul an engine.
I'm not saying all the time. Okay, how about this? We'll have a real night out on the town after you win the Nationals.
Malcolm, one of the mechanics, swivels around.
You're flying in the Nationals after all? I'm glad to hear it after that landing today.
How about a warm-up, Malcolm?
What landing?
Well, you should have seen it. Folded like a kite when she hit the pavement. We thought old Cliffy's number was up, what with the fire and all.
I was going to tell you.
Cliff? When something goes wrong, I should be the first to know, not the last.
Honey, everybody else knows because they were there.
I had an audition. It was important.
Yeah, just like the time I flew the regionals. You had a big part. You stood behind Myrna Loy with a bowl of grapes.
Jenny grabs her purse and stomps out through the door.
Night, Millie. Thanks for the soup.
When Cliff gets home that night to the cottage he shares with Peavy, he finds the old mechanic asleep at the kitchen table. Around him are welding tools and a dark, shimmering object, with an aerodynamic fin. It's the helmet Cliff asked for. The next day, Jenny and her friend Irma are working as extras on the new Neville Sinclair picture. In the middle of a scene, a stagehand cries out. Actors and technicians dive out of the way as a wall splits and topples onto the floor, revealing a startled Cliff Secord.
Is Jenny here?
Cut!
In the hubbub, Cliff turns to Jenny.
Listen, Jenny, something big has happened, and I want you to be the first to know. It's an engine. You wear it on your back. It makes you fly like a plane.
You knocked down half the castle so you could tell me about an engine?
Well, you're always saying you're the last to know.
The assistant director approaches and hands Jenny a slip of paper.
What's this?
Pay voucher. You're off the picture.
Fighting back tears, Jenny takes the slip and hurries away as security escorts Cliff off the set. She turns a corner and runs right into Neville Sinclair. He catches her, and as their eyes meet, the director approaches.
Hey, honey, I thought you got your marching orders. Get off my set.
Victor, you were young once. Accidents do happen. Can't you find it in your heart to give the young lady another chance? Please, for me.
Neville, anything for you.
Mr. Sinclair.
Uh-huh. If you still want to thank me, perhaps you could agree to dine with me this evening. I have a regular table at the South Seas Club. Unless you're bored with the South Seas?
Why, no. I think it's divine.
Then it's a date.
At the airfield the following day, Eddie Valentine's men search the plane in Hangar 3, but all they find is Cliff's signed photo of Jenny. Taking it with them, they go outside to watch an air show in progress. There, Cliff's friend Malcolm is in trouble. To help Cliff earn a few extra bucks, Malcolm has dressed up as a clown pilot and is weaving precariously in an airplane overhead. When Cliff arrives and sees what's going on, he hurries over to Peavy.
Is he crazy? He hasn't flown in 25 years.
If he's just into the race lanes, he'll kill somebody.
Sure enough, the other planes have to scatter as Malcolm roars past, his engine sputtering from a blown piston. Cliff grabs the rocket and starts to put it on.
What do you think you're doing?
What's it look like? Give me a hand with this thing.
Cliff puts the helmet on his head and buckles the strap.
How do I look?
Like a hood ornament.
Cliff sets his feet, aims his gleaming helmet toward the sun, and punches the button. As the Rocketeer zooms over the grandstand, the astonished crowd cheers. Newsreel cameras swing upward to follow the action. Cliff chases Malcolm, lands on the wing, and pulls himself to the cockpit just as the plane stalls and spirals into a nosedive. When Malcolm sees the helmeted figure, he screams.
It's me, Cliff!
Cliff headbutts Malcolm unconscious, then throws his arms around him from behind.
Come on, you son of guts!
He punches the rocket and rips Malcolm out of the cockpit. As they spiral free, the plane smashes into a fuel truck and bursts into flames. Cliff dips over the cheering crowd, deposits Malcolm on the runway, and blasts off. That night, newspapers all over town trumpet the story of the Rocketeer.
Extra! Extra! Read all about it! Man flies without plane!
In a cottage across town, Peavy sits at the kitchen table. Before him lay the strange rocket device and a crudely drawn schematic. Peavy is just completing the schematic when...
Cliff?
He covers the rocket just as a twisted giant of a man enters the room. With a swipe of one huge mitt, the man sends Peavy crashing to the floor.
Oh!
Just then, Cliff drives up on his motorcycle and hears the commotion inside. He lowers his shoulder and charges the door. It's yanked open at the last minute, and Cliff goes sprawling on a coffee table. The giant grips him by the neck and shakes him like a rag doll.
Where is it?
Sure you got the right house?
Snarling, the giant jams Cliff's head through the ceiling. But before he can do anything else, he's blinded by a dozen headlights.
Secord! Peabody! Open up! FBI!
The giant throws Cliff aside, draws twin .45s, and fires on the front door. A G-man falls, and Agents Fitch and Walensky dive for cover. As they return fire, the big man lumbers out the back door, grabbing Peavy's schematic on the way out and stuffing it into his pocket. In the confusion, Cliff and Peavy snatch the rocket and helmet, jump a hedge, and disappear into the darkness. Later, as Cliff and Peavy are having coffee with Millie at the Bulldog Cafe, two of Eddie Valentine's men walk through the door.
What can I do for you, gents?
We're looking for a pilot named Cliff Secord, ma'am. Anybody here know him?
Haven't seen him around.
The other man notices something by the payphone. He taps his partner. Johnny pulls Jenny's photo from his pocket and compares the signature with the one on the wall by the phone. They are both circled with a heart. He dials the number next to the signature and reaches Jenny's roommate. When he hangs up, he's grinning.
Rusty, this will slay you. Guess where the dish went? She's with the lining at the South Seas Club.
As the men hurry out the door, Cliff ducks into the cafe storeroom. Peavy looks on while he pulls out the rocket.
Cliff, no, not again. Half the city's looking for us. I can fly to that nightclub in 5 minutes and nobody can follow me.
Peavy fingers a crease in the rocket's housing.
She caught a ricochet. Looks like I ruptured a fuel tank.
We need something quick.
Peavy produces a wad of gum and jams it over the hole.
How about a little luck?
A short time later, Jenny and Sinclair are sharing a bottle of champagne at the South Seas Club, when Jenny looks up and sees that their waiter is Cliff.
Excuse me, Neville. I'll be right back.
Jenny and Cliff meet in an island of foliage nearby, where Cliff explains that Valentine's men have Jenny's photo and are on their way to get her. As he finishes, he sees the two thugs enter the club.
That's them, the ones with the snapshot. Go, right now.
What about you?
I'll be okay, I promise. Go on, I'll call you as soon as I can.
As Jenny heads for the exit, Cliff is shocked to see the two gangsters huddle with Neville Sinclair. Before he can absorb the full impact of this, he is discovered by the giant who ransacked his house. Cliff sprints for a laundry room, and a moment later, club patrons look up to see the Rocketeer flying overhead, looking for an escape route. Sinclair turns to Valentine's men.
Get those doors closed. We'll trap him like a fly. Shoot him down, now!
Outside, Jenny hears the commotion. She goes back in, finding patrons scrambling for cover as the Rocketeer careens around the room. A stray bullet smashes an aquarium, and 1,000 gallons of water cascade down a stairway. Cliff aims himself at the door, but Sinclair snares him in a net, and Cliff tumbles to the floor. As Valentine's goons close in, Cliff thumbs his ignition button. He shoots straight up, and at the last minute sees a skylight in his path. He throws his arms over his head. The thugs aim and fire, stitching a line of slugs through the dark. Outside, the Rocketeer spirals away into the nighttime sky. Inside the club, Jenny runs for the door, but she is stopped in mid-stride by the cold steel of a pistol pressed into her ribs.
Don't go, my dear. Our evening has just begun.
He nods to the giant, who drags Jenny off into the gloom.
Let go of me.
Later that evening at the Bulldog Cafe, Cliff gets a phone call.
Want to talk to your girlfriend?
You're full of it. She's safe out of town by now.
Yeah? Get a load of this.
Cliff? Is that you?
Jenny? Where are you? What are they? Just a taste, lover boy. So you know we're serious.
Oh, you filthy... If you touch a hair on her head, I swear I'll...
You want her back? Bring us the rocket. Now write this down. Griffith Observatory, exactly 4 a.m. by the statues. We'll be waiting. And Secord, come alone, or the girl's dead.
As Cliff hangs up, the doors of the cafe are kicked in. 4 G-men rush inside, followed by FBI agent Fitch. He saunters up to Cliff and grins.
Remember me?
The next morning, 2 hours before sunrise, 4 cars pull up to Griffith Observatory. Sinclair and his giant bodyguard emerge from one, holding Jenny. Valentine and his men get out of the other cars, looking skyward.
Here he comes!
A shooting star streaks across the heavens, growing brighter by the second. A moment later, the Rocketeer touches down on the grass and confronts Sinclair. The actor holds a Luger to Jenny's head and demands the rocket.
First, you give Jenny your car keys. When she's driven down the hill, I'll...
It's your basic Hollywood Western, Secord. When the bad guy has the girl and the gun, the sheriff's got to give up his horse.
What if the sheriff tells the Indian chief that the bad guy's a Nazi?
Adolf and his goose-stepping rats?
Now, listen.
No, you listen. I may not earn a straight buck, but I'm 100% American.
Then be a bloody honest Yank and honor your contract.
We don't honor foreign contracts.
I'm taking the rocket.
You and what army?
To everyone's amazement, 20 German commandos rush from the bushes, toting machine guns. Sinclair grins at Cliff.
You forgot your Western again. Always more bad guys hiding in the rocks. Ergreifen die Rakete! Schnell!
As one of the commandos lifts the rocket free from Cliff's back, the sound of whirring engines drifts down from overhead. The clouds part to reveal the vast silver belly of a Zeppelin with a huge swastika. The Germans cock the bolts of their weapons and swing the muzzles toward their captives, ready to fire. Suddenly, car-mounted spotlights stab out to illuminate the observatory.
This is the FBI! Throw down your guns!
The Nazis hesitate. Then Cliff, whose wrist is still attached to the rocket's control, presses the ignition button. Jenny looks on in horror as the fiery concussion pulls Cliff through the air as if tethered to a cannonball, and he disappears over a ledge. Suddenly, all heck breaks loose.
Lousy Krauts! Let him have it, boys!
Walensky turns to Fitch.
Now I've seen everything. Eddie Valentine and his mugs on our side. Watch the Zeppelin! Hit the bag roll and it'll fly us all!
A ladder is lowered from the airship. Sinclair and the giant scramble up into the gondola, dragging Jenny behind. They're met by a Nazi agent.
I have her! That stupid Rocketeer will come to us! Now get this ship above the cloud!
On the ground, the combined forces of the FBI and Eddie Valentine have overwhelmed the last of the commandos. Valentine and Wooly watch in dismay as the escaping Zeppelin lifts toward the clouds.
Do something, G-Man! We're losing them! Maybe not!
A trail of flame leaps skyward. The Rocketeer shoots toward the Zeppelin like an angel of vengeance. He lands on top of the airship and finds the giant emerging from a hatch door. The huge thug hooks a safety tether to his waist, then lashes out with a heavy wrench. Staggered by the impact, Cliff cries out in terror as he disappears over the side. A moment later, he rockets up from the other side, his helmet striking the surprised giant squarely in the chest. The big man tumbles over the edge. In the gondola, the captain is fighting to control the Zeppelin.
We're losing altitude. We have to get above the range of their pursuit plane. We are trying, Herr Sinclair.
The captain is interrupted as the giant swings down from above, smashing through the gondola windows. Like a wrecking ball, Luthor strikes a Nazi agent, propelling the man out the door and into space. The giant dangles on his tether like a broken marionette, staring lifelessly into the cabin. Sinclair turns to the captain.
Do I have to fly the ship myself?
Keep us on course or you're next out the door.
All at once, the roof hatch drops, and Cliff leaps into the cabin.
Jenny!
Sinclair places the muzzle of his automatic beneath Jenny's chin.
I've had a belly full of you and your cheap heroic Secord. You hand over the rocket, or I'll blow her brains all over the cabin.
Cliff, don't give in to him!
I have to.
Cliff slips the rocket from his back. He slides it across to Sinclair, who pushes Jenny to the captain and hands him the gun.
If she moves, kill her.
If one more man puts a gun to my head, that's it!
Whirling, Jenny slams her sharp heel down upon the captain's instep. Pulling free, she shoves him hard. His head hits the control panel, and he slumps to the floor unconscious. As Jenny kicks his weapon out the door, Cliff turns to Sinclair.
I know you never lost a fight in the movies, Sinclair, but your stuntman's not here.
Don't you read the fan magazines? I do all my own stunts.
He slams Cliff's head against the wall and begins pummeling him.
I'll shoot! I swear I will!
They turn to find Jenny gripping what she thinks is a pistol.
Jenny, no!
She fires. Not a bullet, but a signal flare. The flare ricochets around the cabin, leaving fire wherever it touches. Cliff turns in shock to see Sinclair poised at the open door, the rocket strapped to his back.
Wait! This thing's gonna blow any minute! Please take Jenny with you.
I don't care the least about her.
My God, Neville!
Goodbye, darling. Happy landing!
As Sinclair leaps from the gondola, Cliff snatches the wad of gum from the rocket's fuel tank, reopening the leak. Free-falling, Sinclair hits the ignition button. The fire is sucked into the rocket pack, and Sinclair corkscrews toward the Earth, a spiral of flame. His journey ends in an explosion that rocks the hills. In the Zeppelin, Cliff turns to Jenny.
This airship's full of hydrogen. If the fire hits the envelope...
I love you, Cliff!
As they kiss, they hear the sound of rotors, and a strange vehicle, half airplane, half helicopter, floats into view. At the controls is the eccentric inventor, Howard Hughes. Next to him, Peavy throws a rope ladder toward Cliff.
Jump for it!
Jenny wraps her arms around Cliff's neck, and he leaps onto the swinging ladder.
Hang on!
The vehicle banks swiftly away, Cliff and Jenny in tow. As they watch, a fireball engulfs the Zeppelin, and it plummets to Earth, a mass of flames. The next morning, Cliff, Jenny, and Peavy sip coffee at the Bulldog Cafe. Suddenly, a familiar droning fills the sky. They rush outside to see a brand new GB racer taxi forward. Howard Hughes emerges.
She's a beauty, Mr. Hughes.
Thanks. Built her myself.
He shakes Cliff's hand and heads for a waiting limousine.
See you around, Rocketeer.
Two of Hughes' assistants peel a strip of tape off the side of the plane to reveal the words, Pilot Cliff Secord. Hughes and his men climb into the limousine and drive off.
I didn't get a chance to thank him.
He saw it in your face, kid.
Cliff, I have something for you, too. Actually, it belongs to Peavy. I found it while I was being held at Sinclair's house.
She takes a folded paper from her purse and hands it to the old mechanic. It's the schematic Peavy had drawn of the rocket pack.
Oh, no.
Cliff sweeps Jenny up in a joyful embrace. He laughs, flashing her the triumphant grin of the Rocketeer.